Michelle.
Hi, Gorge.
Hi, love. How's it going?
You know,
I do. I am familiar with the goings, the current goings
yeah.
ons.
How's it going? How's it goings with you?
It's
Would be my
goings.
next.
It's
Yeah.
going. It's been a period of great growth.
Yes.
I think obviously anyone that I'm friends with is drank the Kool-Aid around any challenge as an opportunity to grow, and that's what this is. So we're growing, and I've had a lot of personal growth in the last month and a half, and I continue to deeply feel so grateful. I mean, I am well aware of how privileged I am, and I don't take it for granted.
Absolutely.
It's good. It's good stuff. So yeah,
That's
so
beautiful.
I'm excited to hear how your business has been operating. Obviously, you could do a lot of remote
Yeah.
coaching, a lot of remote
Yeah.
services, and you're such an integrative practitioner. I know that you're capable of supporting people not just with what they're eating, what they're consuming in other ways, and helping people be healthy. So I'm excited to hear, how you've been supporting your clients through this, and
Absolutely.
practical recommendations for all of us. Because I know
Absolutely.
you're a survivor. We're both using this to figure out how to be of service and show up. So I want to hear what's going on with your business.
Yes. By the way, I'm in my room because understanding that this is a 1-bedroom apartment, and when I'm taking any client calls,
Yep.
my boyfriend is in the other room and the farthest possible point, or any call like that. So just know that if you see the background of me, that's what's going on here. This is
I don't.
we're rolling with the punches. That's what we're doing.
Well,
Um,
we're resilient. We're flexible, and
100%.
yeah.
Exactly right. And when I am taking client calls, he actually has to, I have a family apartment nearby, and both of us have been alternating because of HIPAA protection. We can't
Mm-hmm.
be in the same place. But now that I'm not on a client call, anyway, this is kind of
Yeah, you
a
solve.
scope of what's been happening. It's been
Yes.
like, I won't take a call in the same literal apartment as someone if I'm on a client call, because of HIPAA protection and making sure that no one's within earshot. Yeah. So do you want me to introduce myself a little bit
Yeah.
first?
So this I know you, but tell me about you. Tell me your story. I love your story about how you became so passionate and knowledgeable about
Yeah.
integrative nutrition and diet
Love
stuff.
it.
Tell me.
Yes. So I am an integrative dietitian. I have kind of an interesting path, but like Pam, like everyone, the reason that we come to the positions we're in is because of the stories and lives that we've led. And my lived experience brought me kind of to this point in time. I growing up always occupied a larger body, and then at the age of 18 really quickly lost 100 pounds in a very disordered way, and that kind of left me with loads of chronic illness, like severe thyroid disorder, gut disorder, HPA dysregulation. I was just sick all of the time, basically.
What was the last one? HBS?
HPA axis dysregulation, which is the word for, we don't use adrenal fatigue anymore because we
Okay.
don't believe that our adrenal glands get fatigued. So it's HPA axis dysregulation is your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis.
Yes.
And basically I was stressed the heck out is the way I would describe it in the most layman's term. And I just really kind of clawed my way back to health with the help of a naturopathic physician, and really my journey back to health, and with maintaining the weight loss, but in a way that felt really neutral and really nourishing to my brain, body, and spirit, kind of led me to where I am. So I work really with 3 different types of people. One is someone who wants to lose weight, but also wants to reduce the constant diet chatter, and at the same time really love themselves while they're losing weight, which is actually very counter to the normal way people lose weight.
Totally.
And then also just people who are suffering with anxiety and panic attacks. That's a huge part of my story. And severe gut issues that they've been to 100 doctors and no one can find what's wrong with them. That's my favorite type of person to work with, is to finally get them some answers to their health. And that's the work that I do.
Can you, awesome. I love you. I already knew I loved you.
Love you too.
Can you, okay, suppose I am your client, right? And suppose I'm relatively healthy, because I am relatively healthy.
You sure are.
And I mean, there's always dysfunction hiding beneath the surface in all of us,
Yeah.
myself included. And so specifically, like you have someone who's like not presenting with anything particularly like horrifically wrong. Where do you start? Like, what's the panel of testing, that the assessments that you start with to, I guess, make the most kind of wisest first steps in your process?
Yeah, I love that. So every one of my clients goes through the same initial process, which is that the way I learn about their bodies is through the words that they're saying. So I do an initial consultation, and really, like, listening is my superpower, like not testing, like listening is my superpower. I'm really much more apt to trial and error based on experience, especially because people coming to me, I've gone to so many doctors already. They just don't, even functional medicine doctors, they don't want to be poked and prodded anymore. It's something that's been missed because someone's not listening properly usually. So it's a really intense vetting initial consultation where I'm going through like how they're feeling, sleeping, energy, anxiety, stress levels, digestion, any food they like, any food they don't like, history of trauma, like anything that could possibly come into play. And I have that all in one place.
I love
Yeah.
that.
And then thank you. And then from that, which is like my favorite part, is they get this, what I call their battle plan. The reason I use this phrase battle plan is also because in my journey with anxiety, when I used to have such severe panic attacks right after I lost weight, which is very weird for me because I'm a very outgoing, light person like the rest of the time, but I was really, really suffering. And during that journey, I like decided that I was going to kick anxiety's ass. And I basically like made a list of like, here's how you can target anxiety from a physical sense, from a physiological sense, from a chemical sense, from a mental stance. And I basically made what I called 10 years ago my battle plan. So I do the same for my clients. So it's lifestyle recommendations, supplement recommendations, food recommendations, emotional recommendations. Basically, it's broken down into all different categories of how do they very specifically target their goals. If I have a client who is, listen, they've been doing everything, we missed something again, then I'll send them for more testing. I love Dutch hormone testing. It's like my favorite. Like a GI map, stool test is fantastic. And I can use a lot of the tests they already have, but those integrative functional tests are really important. And I don't necessarily think that adrenal dysfunction is at the root cause of everything, but if you have something going on, it's going to show up in your hormones somehow. So I love a Dutch test. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I've heard of it. It's funny. It's come up a couple times on these community calls. I've never actually done the full Dutch test, but it's something that I've looked into. And
you should. It's so fun. Tell me if you want. I can like help you order one. So if you want to do it, tell me.
Yeah. Yes. Although I do you know Boomer Anderson from Decoding Superhuman? If you don't know him, he's another just, soul sibling, whether you're my sister or you're my brother, we're all siblings, clearly. Exactly. He's actually based in Amsterdam. He has a podcast called Decoding Superhuman, and he's awesome. And I actually just kind of signed up with him to have him coach me for a while because I adore him. I similar to you, like I would totally work with you as well because, there are people who I resonate with, and I know they have a tremendous amount of wisdom. And as a human, I'm all about getting coached because we have our human perspective, and it's so limited by our human perspective, our lens, and having a trusted resource who we know is wise and who we know loves us. Exactly. And who we love, right? It has to be that.
And I have my own dietitian, by the way. Like I have my own dietitian coach. Like I have my own naturopathic physician, my own dietitian coach. Like I have my own every type of coach. I fully agree with you. Every
wise person I know is all about finding who their coaches are. Like who are we going to have in our corner? Because it is a battle. I'm actually working on a new book called Effortless War.
Love that.
Because this whole oh shit, I'm trying again. Oh shit, I'm efforting again. Stop that. And there's a lot to fight for. This rising up, especially right now. Not to get too meta, but there's so much to fight for. Life is worth fighting for. So fight with this effortless commitment, right? And that's
absolutely great. There's like an Eastern principle, which is like effort versus ease,
exactly.
And making sure that you like weave in effort
sweet
versus
spot.
ease. Absolutely, yeah.
I remember learning that in yoga and being like, okay, how do you find that?
Exactly. What is that?
And so how do you do that? Thank goodness for meditation. And now you can feel it, right? You can feel it. And even just the words we use, right? And it's cool. So that's awesome. I do think that the Dutch test, because again, all of us, we're all somewhere on this journey for health and wellness and increased fitness. And, I think my passion around separating out health and fitness and defining them in a very kind of broad, integrative way. And I love, it has to be integrated. If you're not talking about mental health, physical health, and emotional/spiritual health, you're not going to really be.
You're not going to heal if you miss any of it.
No, you have to be doing all of them. Like for a while, I was working at a behavioral therapy based, I think I told you this, a behavioral therapy based food and weight program. And there was some, there was some spiritual component in it, but it was so heavily behavioral, which a lot of people, this whole waiting room thing, I'm like, oh no, someone's waiting, and oh no, I missed them. Oops, it wasn't meant to be. But where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
Now I've gone somewhere.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, I mean, if it's too behavioral and not enough inner, if it's too outer and not enough inner, you're going to get stuck.
It's like that idea of like, you can't like think your way into action. Like you have to just do stuff sometimes too. Yeah. I don't like when things are too cerebral. Like I could be in the middle of a session and we could just like literally, I could be like, wow, we need to lay on the floor and breathe for a second. Like, we're talking about like a low FODMAP diet. I'm like, oh, you're not I can see when people aren't able to like actually receive information, because there's a difference between like, you could give anyone all the nutrition information in the world. I don't actually believe nutrition education is like really that effective, to be honest with you. I think I always say like, knowledge isn't power, intuition is power. So like getting people to access their own intuition is the most important part of the work that I'm doing, where I want them to literally tell me to like piss off in the middle of the session because they know what to do more than me. I'm like, you know what you need to do. I'm just trying to pull out of you what you need to do. And then eventually they'll tell me like, wait, no, actually this works better. And I'm like, yeah, of course, what works better for your body, your body. But we've been trained in Western medicine to not trust our bodies so much.
Totally. We're also disconnected. And, all of this history around diets, right? Like these big buckets of diets. And I know you and I are both super passionate about the bio-individualization of nutrition, because, your body's different from my body, a man's body versus a woman's body, different times in our cycle. And I'm really passionate about data and quantification to help us reconnect with ultimately what our intuition, I do believe, can tell us if we're able to tune in and hear it and listen.
But you have to fine tune it and biohack it before you can get to your intuition. And that's the important thing. And what's really missing, the kind of like militant, I don't know if you're aware, but in the dietitian world, there's kind of two camps right now, which one would be like ultimate, like kind of diet culture, like, diets, not even like awesome diets. I mean, like Weight Watchers at, like
limiting
diets,
and like
very restrictive diets. And then on the other end is this intuitive eating, healthy at every size movement. But on the militant end of that, they also believe like you can't individualize nutrition because it'll cause an eating disorder. So it's like there's kind of two, and that's militant on each side. Is very
There's
different.
always a middle path,
which is the correct path. It's just, it matters. The correct path is whatever matters for the person and works for the person. That's the only path that can possibly work.
And 100% of the time, you feel like you're going in the wrong direction, right? Like that analogy when it's like the flying analogy, like you get in the plane and like you're constantly off course, and it's the process of recorrecting that like actually gets us to where we're going. You, at any moment, if you look and you actually assess like, oh my God, I'm totally going in the wrong direction. And then you're totally going in the wrong direction, the other direction, and then totally too far this way and too far that way. And that's why we all feel so neurotic.
Exactly right.
Because we have brains, and our brains
and like
judge.
when you are pulling yourself in the right direction, it still feels like that effort, but that's actually the work is pulling yourself through.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
In the flow, which is an ebb and flow, and
exactly.
So in terms of like the bio-individualization, obviously you use a lot of this kind of intuitive assessment. I guess you would just say it was a conversational assessment. And then when needed, you go deeper into the hormones. I mean, is there like low-hanging fruit where there's a certain amount of your clients where a lot of them fall into a particular bucket? Like if there was, like, what's the top 5 pieces of information that you feel like if people knew these 5 things, we'd all, like, so many of us would have better results? Like what are those things that you...
I love that question. I think your sleep is going to be like your biggest indicator. Like if you're waking up at like 2 or 3 a.m., you're not eating enough carbs. Like that's just like a really easy thing. I think that like in general, I love the flow of eating more fat earlier in the day and more carbs later in the day. That usually works for most people.
It's like the opposite of what I think.
I know, and I'm going to tell you why, and it's really
I love
freaking
this.
interesting.
Tell me.
Yeah, so so first of all, our insulin is, as we go on through the day and you're fueling the fire, your body's more sensitive as the day progresses because your body is used to burning things by the end of the day. Also thinking about just in a natural kind of way, when our body can tolerate and yearn for carbs more is later in the day. That's when it makes us sleepy. That's when it helps us with sleep. It helps us regenerate hormones. Carbohydrates make us sleepy. That's part of it, that they're meant for more late in the day. Now, also when you wake up in the morning, you just slept 8 hours, you don't really need that kind of like glucose level of energy because your body has energy. It just slept for 8 hours. You are well rested at that time. So generally, especially if you're doing something like an intermittent fasting or something like ketogenic diet with carb cycling, you really don't want to break that fast in the morning with carbohydrates anyway. And then as the day goes on, your body tolerates them more. When you're waking up at 2 or 3 a.m., which I see in all, because I work with like mostly executives in New York, and they're freaking stressed. And all of them, when they're in stressful times, kind of notice their blood sugar dropping at that exact time, which is 2 or 3 a.m. When I say blood sugar dropping, the reason I'm knowledgeable and understanding of that is because your cortisol and your blood sugar have a negative feedback loop. So if you are more stressed, your blood sugar drops more frequently. And also when your blood sugar drops, your body signals to create more cortisol. So cortisol causes gluconeogenesis, which is glucose from non-glucose things. So that means when you're stressed, A, your blood sugar drops. B, that wakes you up at 2 a.m. because cortisol is like, there's a bear nearby, because the bear is the starvation from no carbs. So your body requires more carbs when you're stressed. So if you notice in times of stress, oh, I'm waking up every single day at 2 a.m., this very distinct time, it's like 2 to 3 a.m., then just adding a serving of carbohydrates before you go to sleep could like easily, and I'm giving this tip right now because I know how many people are stressed right now.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking about my husband.
He's asleep a bit.
But he eats like apples and almond butter late in the
Which
night.
is, I wouldn't do almond butter because it's a little too much fat.
Obsessed with almond butter.
No, not just at night.
I just let him.
Otherwise, because fat can interrupt REM sleep. So I would do something like a piece of like turkey and an apple, just something lower in fat, a little more protein, and just get your carb in, and having that before sleep, not if he wakes up. He's waking up because his blood sugar is low, and that's why he's reaching for the apple. So that's just a general tip too. If you're waking up at 2 a.m., you're probably not eating enough carbs. That's like a really easy check for people. I think introducing more mindfulness into meals can be really helpful for anyone, and just checking in with your hunger before a meal. Like, hi, how hungry am I? If you can like rate your hunger on a scale of 1 to 10. A lot of us, after we do keto and paleo and all these diets for so long, we're so used to working and operating on what's on the piece of paper and not what our bodies actually need. So just checking in with your hunger, I think, would be like my second big nutrition tip, is just the more you can check in with that hunger.
Can I ask you about that? Because one of the things I learned, I did a program with Eric Ramirez, the Wild Fit program. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he taught how there were these like 5 different types of hunger, and only 2 of them were real. So like, you feel hungry when you're thirsty, you feel hungry when your stomach is empty, and you feel hungry when you've got emotional cravings and you're seeking, stimulation. But those 3 things aren't real hunger. There's only 2 types of real hunger, which are, he said, the variety, like you may need a variety of nutrition, or you may actually need macro nutrition. And so I've kind of been watching that and try to untangle what my head thinks is actually real hunger versus old, fire together, wire together signs of hunger that aren't real hunger. I don't know if you've ever.
I don't know if I agree.
Okay. I love that.
I don't think I agree. Yeah, I don't think I agree. And I think that you trying to sort that out in the moment.
Well, just his point was, if you think you're hungry, and actually when you look at it, you're like, oh, I just ate. And so let me try to have water. Let me try before I actually think that I need to eat again. That was, I think, the point of that.
I think that I have a really easy trick to assess your hunger levels that I'll give you too. Think of, and Pam, you'll be our guinea pig. Think of a food that you don't really like that much, but is okay.
It's so hard for me. I'm like, so like whatever about food. All right. Okay. I thought of a Luna
All right.
bar. A Luna bar. My
A
kids
Luna
have
bar.
things and I'm like, really?
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Do you want to eat a Luna bar right now?
No.
You're probably not hungry.
Yeah.
If you want to eat a food that you actually, if you want to eat a food that you actually don't like, it means you're freaking hungry.
I'm
So
like rarely hungry, I think is the point. I'm like rarely, because most of us probably are rare. Yeah.
No. We shouldn't really be hungry in America. We have, I mean, unless you're hungry in America and you're food insecure, then you definitely are hungry.
Yeah.
But no, feelings of genuine hunger are not something that we experience very often. What we do actually do is mask feeling of hunger. So I would go in the opposite direction of what you mentioned and assume that we are hungry, because we often like override our hunger cues and just say like, just shut up and wait to eat. And don't listen to ourselves and more listen to external voices. Yeah. So this is also one online program I made, was called Quiet the Diet. And it was literally, and I'm just finishing up the 8th week of that program, but it's on the second run. It was awesome. And really the point of that is like, how do you actually lower the voices in your head that are telling you what to eat and access your own intuition about like what you actually want to eat? And assessing your hunger cues is really hard. But that's a really quick and easy tool people can use. I also got a question that I wanted to answer. Hold on. Yeah, let me see. What are some of the most healthy carbs? Healthy in ways of they will help you to maintain your blood sugar for longer. Like starchy vegetables, I love. I wouldn't recommend like broad spectrum whole grains generally at all. I would start with like starchy vegetables like potatoes and squashes. I think are awesome. I think if you can tolerate beans, those are actually really great, nice and level carbs. Certain fruits, the more high fiber fruits, berries are awesome. Avocados are a great source of carbs, even though they're fat too. They have a decent source of fiber. I would just go for ones that are probably the closest to what a natural form would be, and that also taste really good and have a decent amount of fiber. I think is awesome. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, all of this, okay, so we were on a couple tips. I don't know if you've got a couple more tips, because tips are great.
I do. And I also, I'm like eager, and I can't believe I haven't mentioned it yet, but I'm rolling out with my naturopathic physician, Dr. Kochko, who is like my favorite.
I love him. He spoke at the Biohack the World with Amber Degree. I love those
because I was like, you need to do this. Basically, he works with, he's of the firmest belief that chronic pain is derived in social isolation, and that when we feel mental pain, we feel physical pain.
Yes.
And that is,
I would agree with that.
And which is why it's so hard for all of us right now. So we together, and I'm so excited. In 2 weeks, we're launching our first program, which is called Anxiety Proof. And it's a complete guide to like taking yourself from, if you're having several panic attacks a day, or you're just stressed out, to literally being anxiety proof and resilient and free from anxiety. And it's our belief and understanding that anxiety is just the body's alarm system and trying to tell you that something is off. And it could be a micronutrient deficiency. It can be a gut issue. It can be all these different things, but we just receive it as, I need to calm down. And really learning, top to bottom, how do you restructure your life so that you can actually reduce the amount of anxiety you have. And then of course, meditation, of course, things like that, which we'll talk to you about, and movement and everything, but really focusing on like those exact things, nutrition wise, physiologically, to help reduce that anxiety signal. So we're so excited.
Super, super empowering and spot on. And I think at the root of this, so many of, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with life. There's something wrong with me. Like,
exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's, and how do we shore that up?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think like the smartest people and the most cerebral people are like often the most anxious, because we're trying to calculate outcomes for things. And I also feel like the most empathetic and lovely people are the most anxious, because highly sensitive people will also pick up on energy of others, and also are the first people to neglect themselves. So really a lot of it's also about setting boundaries and what you have to say no to in order to say yes to being at peace. So we're freaking excited, but I have to tell you about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that sounds beautiful. I'm so excited. Well, definitely once it launches, send it to me so I can share it, with the community.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yay. Awesome. Okay. So in terms of, anxiety proofing or just health proofing, what are the other kind of tips that you see people oftentimes kind of miss the mark, and it's kind of low hanging fruit?
Yeah, the reason I'm also pivoting to that, so this, you originally asked me before, like, what's been going on with my clients. I'm still seeing 30, 35 clients a week.
Yeah.
Virtually. I normally see about 50% of my clients virtually, and then 50% I see at the assemblage. But I see 50% virtually anyway, so this wasn't that big of a shift. But it's really weird when you talk to people. I've had some clients who have done over 100 sessions with me, so they've been with me for years. And just the flow of conversations is so similar kind of without. And right now I'm really adapting a different approach than I normally do in my coaching sessions, whereby I'm normally like the listener, the puller. I want to get all the information from them. And right now I've just been like, hey, we need to learn to be human again. Like, you need to go outside. Like, you need to like eat every few hours. Like, you need to like listen to your body, where we're so in our
so
heads.
disorienting. I mean, this was
So
such a disorienting kind of rug pulled out from underneath you, and almost like, I'm sure maybe not, but I always think of the analogy when I was a kid and you kind of had that first time where a wave washed over you and you get like spun upside down, and there's a moment where like you don't even know what way is up and you can't breathe, and you're just like, that's kind of how this felt in a way. It was
Absolutely.
like everything that we had been relying on in all of these kind of structured, systematic ways to feel like we know what's going to happen. We know what we're doing. We know how everything's going to be okay. And then it's like, whoop.
Exactly right. And in uncertainty comes fear. And this was the most uncertainty in every single way for our health. And this is also very, very traumatizing time for people. Like, if you are a person who also like has any sort of like childhood trauma about not being able to leave the house, past life trauma, like any kind of trauma you have, this will instigate your trauma.
Yeah.
Food shortages, like anything you could possibly fathom.
Yeah.
This is like, and I'm so impressed with how people are handling it in so many ways. And then I'm also nervous for some people, because being home for 2 months is scary for some people's health, mental health, physical health, everything.
Yeah.
So really what I've been doing with people is just like, let's just be people again right now, and just establish some sort of routine, and nothing punishing, and nothing like Marie Kondo your entire house, like nothing like that. Just like,
sparks joy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is not the time. This is not the time. The fact that people are like, let me challenge myself to do something. I'm like, I'm going to just challenge you to leave your bed. Like, that's all I'm going to challenge you to do right now. Like, don't cry.
And that's just someone who has kids, because it's also, I feel like it's like the tale of two cities. It's like people with children, people without children.
It's so.
And I'm like, I mean, I feel so lucky because mine are 11 and 14, which is,
totally different than like having a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Oh my God. One of my dearest friends, she has a 6-month-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And she works full time for like a bank, she's a high level banker, and her husband is a high level bank. And it's like, oh my God.
No, I can't.
I was on the phone with her for 10 minutes and I was like, all right, I think both of us have to go. Cause I said, mommy the whole time. And she's kind of tuning it out. But I, as a mom, like I'm like flashing back to that age. And I'm like, oh my God, and when I told my husband, I was like, oh my God, you and I wouldn't have made it.
No, like it's really testing people. No, it's seriously. It's just, the other part that's so insane too is like, with all of this, like the things that make our lives tolerable are like the beautiful positive memories that we share. And it's just like, even the things that normally fill our bucket up, we don't have right now. So it's everyone's dealing with it differently, but the one kind of thing across the board is, I'm like, do you remember anything that makes you feel good? Because when we're in this headspace for like, everything's terrible and nothing makes me feel good, I'm like, do you remember anything that made you feel good?
Something.
And just
anything.
Walking outside and breathing, anything like that. And just letting people at the lowest level, like the minimal amount of what they can do, something to make themselves feel good. And just really like messaging across the board. I'm like, everyone's so hard on themselves during this time. Like I had a client who was getting a master's degree, and she was like, my graduation is canceled, but I shouldn't feel bad about it. I'm like, why wouldn't you feel? Have you been hearing that with people too? Like,
that's one of the things.
Won't let themselves be mourning.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, you and I have talked about similar things before, and like obviously we're both very aware of the importance of allowing ourselves space to feel whatever we're feeling, right? And so I've been practicing that for a long time, and I would have thought that I actually was like really good at it. This period has shown me how much I'm still repressing my feelings.
Absolutely.
And I'm much more aware of it. And even this morning, I was like, ooh, ooh. And I like had to kind of override my natural impulse to shut down a feeling of disappointment, sadness, because I thought I was going to get to go do something and then I couldn't. And then I felt that subconscious old pattern of stop, you shouldn't feel that way. And it's also conscious,
Mm,
right? And then I like, but it's been such a common thing. And because of that, it's been a huge opportunity for me to grow.
beautiful.
And so as we share that with other people, we practice it ourselves.
And you use the big curse word there.
The
You said
shouldn't,
should.
should, yeah,
It's so,
which I
so
know. And
good.
I say I don't even use that word ever. I feel it. Now I just feel that I'm doing it. I never say that word to myself. I never say it. But energetically, what that word does is it shuts down a
Absolutely.
pathway. And so if you tune
Absolutely.
in, you can feel it, even though I haven't said that word to myself in years. I'm like,
Which also
ooh,
is
I'm
fine
doing
too.
it.
You heard it and you were like,
Oh yeah.
stuff's
Well,
coming up for all of us. That's just, I had, and I wrote about this on my Instagram, which is like a ridiculous thing, but like, I'm obviously an integrative dietitian. I believe in all holistic health. And I literally the other day, I haven't smoked a cigarette in like 10 years. And the other day I was like, I think I want to smoke a cigarette. I'm like, oh yeah, during a respiratory pandemic, you want to smoke a cigarette? Like, of course I didn't, but like even these thoughts that are just
yeah,
coming
the
from
impulse,
absolutely nowhere.
old,
It's,
yeah, whatever they
yeah,
are, it's like weather, and you let it and you don't judge it, right? And
exactly.
be aware of where even though you're practicing that consciously, subconsciously, you're still doing it and you can feel it
Exactly
when
right.
you tune in. And that's been a huge thing for a lot of people, myself included, all the feelings that this has brought up because there's so much grief, there's so much disappointment, there's so much frustration. I mean, I don't know anyone who isn't frustrated on some level. And then it's an opportunity to be like, okay, cool, I'm feeling frustrated. What's underneath that? What's the core belief
Exactly.
under there that is, driving that feeling? Because feelings aren't facts. Whatever you feel is wonderful. Let yourself feel it, and then
Exactly.
figure out what's really going on, because a feeling isn't a fact.
Exactly. You are not your feelings and you are not your thoughts. But the fact, it's just funny that you hear all these new thoughts and feelings come up. And I'm just like, sometimes I'm just like, what are you
Little
doing,
Pammy,
brain?
little Pammy had like a temper tantrum. Like I started to have a temper tantrum this morning, like little Pammy. And I was like, and obviously I wasn't going to get anywhere close to a temper tantrum, but that feeling, that super little Pam frustration totally came up. And I was like, oh, that's juicy. I was like, okay,
Exactly. I know. I like
that's
it when the new stuff
okay.
comes up. It's fun. It's
I
like, this
haven't,
is
I
weird.
haven't felt four in quite some time. I was like, I wanted to, but I didn't. And then, and
I'm
like, that
mourning
was
what you
little
didn't get to
Pammy.
do too. I'm
Yeah.
mourning it with her. I
Yeah.
know.
I know that
It's
was
true.
sad, and it's good. But
And
yeah,
if you're
so
not, I mean, if you're not feeling weird or out of your
it's
element,
fine
or
too.
like you're changing during this time, exactly, wherever you're at is right. And also I would say if you're feeling numb to it and that's just your survival mechanism, all right, like
Yeah.
don't rip yourself out of your
No,
trauma mechanism.
whatever is,
Fight, flight,
love
or
that.
freeze. Exactly. Just wherever anyone is, like we need to practice such kindness and compassion, and such like unprecedented kindness and compassion. And actually, this is just like off the cuff, honestly, and not nutrition related, but I'm really fed up right now with people who are like yelling at each other to stay home. Like it's really pissing me off. Like when it's like, just stay home. I'm like, it's not just stay home. There's people who live in like low income neighborhoods who live in 250 square feet with several relatives, and like they are in apartments that like might not have heat. Like you have no idea what people are going through.
Of
It's so
course.
degrading to the human experience to just be like, just stay home. Your mental and physical health don't matter. It doesn't matter if this is like actual physical torture and trauma for you. Just stay home. Like I'm sick of people not being kind to each other in that way. And I'm just like, we need to find this compassion that's like, it
Deeply
needs to be
rooted.
more. Yeah, it needs to be more than we've ever done before for ourselves and for other people right now. Like we have to find it. We're just not going to make it through otherwise. So we all
Yeah.
have to like pull it from wherever the heck it is.
Well, there's I've been working with Mark Atkinson for a while, since October, and one of his practices is the smile, soften, sink, and slide. So whatever it is, don't make a problem of it. You smile, you soften, and you kind
I
of
love
sink
it.
and slide into it, and then like see from there. So whatever is, whatever rises. Ooh, that's juicy. I'm not going to make a problem of it that 4-year-old Pammy like wants to throw a fit right now. I'm going to smile, soften, sink, and
She's
slide
cute.
into it. She is cute. She was a handful. I think my dad's on
Exactly.
this call, so he
I
can
love
attest to it.
it.
But yeah, I mean,
That makes
all this
sense.
stuff. And so just getting back to nutrition, because
Yeah.
that's, I mean, it's such a valuable,
Yep.
actionable thing right now.
Yep.
So like, I mean, I know food shortage is an issue, right? There's a lot of people
Yeah.
that aren't able to get the variety that they usually get, aren't able to get the same things that they like. Are there any, kind of simple, easy things that you have as go-tos that maybe would just be a good, oh, I hadn't thought of that, like snack wise or
Yeah.
food wise, easy meal
I'm loving
wise?
that. I'm trying to use what's in my pantry right now too. And also, by the way, in the spirit of allowance when it comes to food, like give yourself permission to order out if you want, give yourself permission to cook. Whatever you need to do, great. Just do whatever you need to do in this time. I actually have been like, I am not a big cook, by the way, which is like really bad because I work with old New Yorkers who like eat out for every single meal, by the way. So it's like my group is not a suburban group. It is like they're working till 10 p.m. and like so they're getting food with clients, and that's just like the way that I live my life too. Is like I'm very likely to eat out, but I have been cooking every single meal now because most of the restaurants in New York are closing anyway, which is devastating. But I have been taking like any of my pantry recipes and trying to like fix them in a way that doesn't feel exactly the same. Like I'm trying to turn chickpeas into falafel. I'm trying to turn my oatmeal into pancakes, like anything that just feels a little bit structurally different. So I literally have been just making these pancakes every day, which feels like so fun. And I'm just like putting like 2 eggs, 1 banana, oats, chia seeds in a blender, and then putting it on the stove on the pan, and I'm just like the happiest person in the entire world because it feels like I'm doing something like so bad, but it's the same ingredients I would use
In
in
your
my oatmeal
oatmeal?
anyway. Yeah,
Oh,
and I
that's so
have my like
fun.
my collagen protein powder. I'm just throwing into a little bit of peanut butter and just like having just a different like physical. I gotta see something different. I gotta smell something like that smells like pancakes right now and doesn't smell like oatmeal right now. Again, like little things like that, just trying to switch it up in any way, trying to eat vegetables in a creative way. And I've been also generally I would build my meals around protein, but I've been having more fun just building my meals around the vegetables, whatever sauces I'm using with the vegetables, which has been a switch for me. So I've been making like honey Dijon Brussels sprouts and making like, balsamic portobello. Like I've been trying to just switch it from that angle. And that's been, I think right now, just trying to spice it up and not do the same thing every single freaking day. Because the monotony of everything else is so intense that it's like anything I can do to see a different shape is going to be great right now is how I'm feeling. Those are what I've been doing and just trying to balance my meals, get a protein, get a fat, get some fiber at every single meal. That's been really helpful. And I've been I've seen so many of my clients just skipping meals, just like to whatever out of it to kind of that I would not advise. Trying to keep your blood sugar nice and stable and even during this time, I think is really important. So if you are even an intermittent faster, my advice is that this might not be the time because it's so stressful already. So just trying to have meals every few hours, not introducing a drastic amount of carbs or anything, but having maybe a little bit more if you're feeling stressed, I think is great.
Awesome. Well, that's all super, super practical. I don't know if anyone has any questions. People can feel free to unmute themselves or raise their hand if anyone has any particular questions for Michelle. As always, you are just a delight, and you're like a
You're a
powerhouse. So
freaking delight.
you have such like a high energy that I always feel like I can do it, no matter what it is that we're talking about. I'm like, all right, okay, I can do it. I can climb that mountain. I can make those oatmeal pancakes, or I can make it. Last night actually was the first time in 2 months, because we've been home for about 2 months now, obviously cooking. I'm cooking pretty much every night. Every now and then my husband will maybe like once every 2 weeks he'll like heat something up, and he could cook. It's just a natural kind of division of labor.
Yeah.
And last night I was like, 2 nights ago was the first time I made an awful meal, because I generally am a pretty good cook. 2 nights ago, so we get Butcher Box, and I had gotten ribs.
Love.
And I didn't realize, and I had 2 packages of the ribs. And of course, I'm like throwing them in the pan while I'm doing like 13 other things. But I didn't realize that each package of the ribs was actually 2 sets of ribs together. And so when I put them in the pan, instead of just having, 2, halves of the ribs, it was actually, they were on top of each other. And so they did not cook evenly or
of course.
cook. And so when I took them out of the oven like 3 hours later, I was like, uh-oh.
Here we go.
And then I was trying to fix that, and then I put in the Brussels sprouts. Then I forgot the Brussels sprouts were in the oven. So it was like this. It was hysterical. We were all laughing so hard. Luckily, my family is super fun, and we were all laughing hysterically. And it's like the first time in 2 months that I made an awful meal. I mean, it was really funny. It was like, it's just going to be a joke forever. The ribs
You
that
have to
were
be able to laugh
and the
hysterically
Brussels sprouts that I burned. It was really funny. But then last night I cooked. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of cooking. Like, I'm actually legit.
Yeah.
I'm legit tired of cooking. If the first bunch of months, like first bunch of weeks, I was like, oh, this is great. I'm cooking again.
I know. I felt the same way. Doesn't all food start to taste the same too? I feel like just even being also, again, in Manhattan, the smell of the food even, I'm like, I'm over all of it. I'm like, I don't even really smell myself cooking anymore. It's like, I know it's really, it's like that. But again, in that way, then like, for me, it feels so insane to have like a pancake, it's just so different for me. Making a frittata instead of having a scrambled omelet. Like, you know what I mean? Like making tacos instead of just having my meat or my fish. Like little things like that that feel like almost like kid finger foods, but they're not, like those kind of things, and using the same ingredients. That's been really fun for me, because I can't look at like a salad again. I'm like, look, I can't look at these same foods.
And that's my dad, by the way. So that's my dad. Dad, do you have a question?
Oh, well, I have a big thank you. You guys know Pam does a lot of these sessions. Not to be patronizing, but this one was especially helpful to me. One question, I know I'm serious, it was really great. And I appreciate your tips about the healthiest carbs. I'm going to be 70, and it's probably 35 or 40 years that my body's developed a habit. I wake up every night, 2 or 3 in the morning. And I have some leftover beans and potatoes, and the Sherry's just been cooking up a storm, which has been awesome. So we're trying to think, shall we have them for a side dish or whatever? So I'm going to kind of savor them for an after dinner snack, especially
that's awesome.
And see if it helps.
The other tip was really great too. Well, I was going to ask the questions like, what if it doesn't help? Because it's like, I'm not going to panic.
Well, be patient, because your mind may like have you stuck in that cycle. Out of routine.
Your circadian rhythm, can still be there. You also, Pam, you got to send Dad maybe some magnesium too. Are you taking magnesium?
No, just a general multiple vitamin.
Magnesium is going to be your next bet. There's a brand of magnesium which is generally safe, but of course, anytime you start a new vitamin or supplement, you always want to check with your healthcare providers. But magnesium SRT by Jigsaw. It's like sustained release technology. You take 2 of those, you have your carb at night. I'm telling you, you will be out.
Okay. Well, great. And I just wanted to thank you very much again. That was super. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you for your questions. And please report back. Now I need to know how your sleep is. And I know when I say it to people and they're like, why does she know that I'm waking up at 2 a.m.? It's very distinctly that cortisol response. So yeah, exactly. Why do you know what I'm doing? It's very usually distinct to that cortisol response. So you have to let us know. I'm very curious to hear.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Michelle, thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for joining. It's just so good to see you. I love you. And I can't wait.
I love you. And it's so good to see you. And I'm
so excited about the anxiety program that you guys are releasing. So it sounds
I will let you know everything about it. I'm so freaking excited. And Pam, I'm going to give you the biggest hug ever when I see you in person.
Sweet. Lots of love. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. And we'll see
you guys for coming.
Bye.